London, 1920. The Great War had ended, but the city wore its scars like a widow in mourning. The fog that rolled in from the Thames was thicker now, heavier, as if it carried the weight of unspoken horrors. Gas lamps flickered weakly against the gloom, their sickly yellow light barely piercing the mist. The streets of Whitechapel, still haunted by the ghost of Jack the Ripper, had grown quieter, more sinister. The people who walked them did so with their collars turned up and their gazes fixed ahead, never lingering too long in the shadows. But beneath the cobbled streets, something far older and far worse was stirring. The night rail inspector, Elias Wren, was a practical man. At 38, he had seen enough of the world's darkness during the war to know that true evil wore a human face. He had no patience for ghost stories or superstition. That was why he had been assigned as a night rail inspector, tasked with patrolling the labyrinth of tunnels beneath London's East End. His job was simple. Check for gas leaks, structural damage, and any remnants of wartime sabotage. But on the night of November 17th, 1920, Elias received a report that made his blood run cold. A section of unused tunnel beneath Dorset Street, sealed off since 1889, had allegedly collapsed. Worse, a constable claimed to have heard a faint voice calling from within the rubble. "Please, help me." Elias scoffed. Impossible. That tunnel had been bricked up decades ago. No one could be inside. Yet orders were orders. The descent, the air in the underground was thick and damp, the walls slick with condensation. Elias carried only a gas lantern, its flickering light casting long, trembling shadows. The deeper he went, the heavier the silence became. The usual distant echoes of the city above had faded, replaced by an unnatural stillness. When he reached the sealed section, his breath caught in his throat. The wall wasn't collapsed. It had been broken from the inside. Chunks of brick and mortar lay scattered across the tunnel floor, as if something had forced its way out. The opening yawned before him, a black maw leading into absolute darkness. And then, "Please, help me." The voice was small, a child's. Elias's grip tightened on his lantern. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. But if someone was trapped, he stepped forward. The crawl space, the passage beyond the broken wall, was narrow, forcing Elias to crouch. The air grew colder with each step, his breath forming ghostly plumes in the lantern light. The walls were no longer brick, but rough-hewn stone, older than the tunnels themselves. The ground beneath his feet was uneven, sticky with something he didn't dare examine. And then a sound. Not a voice this time, but a wet, ragged breathing. Elias froze. His lantern flickered, flame guttering as if starved of air. Slowly he turned. At first he saw nothing, then eyes. Not one pair, not two, dozens. Pale, glowing, inhuman, they emerged from the darkness. Figures so emaciated, their bones pressed against paper-thin skin. Their limbs were too long, their fingers ending in jagged nails. Their mouths, their mouths were sewn shut with rusted iron wire. The flesh around them moved silently, their skeletal frames twitching with unnatural hunger. Elias's heart hammered against his ribs. He stumbled back, but the tunnel behind him was gone. The passage had shifted, twisted, as if the very walls were alive. The lanterns sputtered. The creatures advanced. The forgotten ones. They had been children once, stolen from the streets of Whitechapel over decades, taken by a cult that worshipped something far older than London itself. When the authorities had sealed the tunnels in 1889, they had believed the cult eradicated. But the cult had not died. They had been buried, and something in the darkness had kept them alive, changed them, twisted them. The forgotten ones did not speak. They did not need to. Their hollow eyes said everything. Elias ran. The tunnel stretched impossibly long, the exit always just out of reach. The air reeked of blood and damp earth. Behind him, the creatures moved with eerie patience, their bare feet whispering against the stone. Then the lantern died. Darkness swallowed him whole. The whisper, Elias, calling from somewhere deep in the tunnels. Help me. He turned, desperate, disoriented, and felt cold, skeletal fingers close around his wrist. The aftermath. At dawn, the constables found the tunnel undisturbed. No collapse, no broken wall, only Elias's hat and a trail of wet footprints leading up the wall, as if something had climbed into the ceiling. In the weeks that followed, the fog over Whitechapel grew thicker. Locals whispered of pale faces peering from alley drains, of voices calling from beneath the grates, and some swore that if you walked those streets past midnight, you would hear footsteps behind you. But when you turned, no one was there, only a whisper calling your name. Subscribe now and descend into the forgotten tunnels, haunted towns, and cursed places the world would rather keep buried, because some stories were never meant to be told, but we tell them anyway. New episodes every week. Never walk alone again.